Howdy, howdy, howdy. We are live. I'm live with the one and only Derek Bros. You know him from Twitter and YouTube and, of course, TikTok. And we decided to jump on here today and do a synopsis of what's been going on in the last 24 hours, in particular what's happening across Israel. We have been saying for a long time that they have to have an excuse to do what they're going to do next. We've been waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it looks like this is it. This is the war of all wars, the battles of all battles. And we're going to be opening up the phone line here in just a moment. Don't call quite yet because I don't have it hooked up yet. But Derek, give me your insights real quick as to what you think is going to happen and how this is it going to escalate, or is this just a flash in the pan?
Oh, no, this is going to seriously escalate. Right now, we've got UN, peacekeepers that were staged and posted in Lebanon. And, they're called peacekeepers, but they typically don't like to get involved in skirmishes. But they were told, the UN and other UN peacekeeping locations around the world where there are peacekeepers, to get out immediately. So I think we're going to see a severe, my contact in Israel said that expect a massively disproportionate response. So I would say tactical nukes. I would say something very, very severe is coming in both Lebanon and in Iran.
There was a lady on social media the other day, and I didn't get her name, but I posted it on all of my accounts. And she asked the one question that we're seeing across the planet of all these refugees that are crossing borders and so on. Why are the vast majority of them? Let's go to Blinken here real quick. Sorry, let's take this. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to Blinken. Let's listen to this. Here we go. See if we can turn this back on.
Today, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere that the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back. We'll make sure that they have the help their citizens need and they can continue to defend themselves. The world's seen appalling images. Thousands of rockets in a space of hours raining down on Israeli cities. I got up this morning, started this at 7:30, 8 o'clock, my calls. Hamas terrorists crossing in Israel, killing not only Israeli soldiers, but Israeli civilians in the street, in their homes. Innocent people murdered, wounded, entire families taken hostage by Hamas. Just days after Israel marked the holiest of days in the Jewish calendar. It's unconscionable. When I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, I told him the United States stands with the people of Israel in the face of these terrorist assaults. Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop. There's never justification for terrorist attacks. And my administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. Let me say this as clearly as I can. This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage. The world is watching. I've also been in contact with the King of Jordan, spoken with members of Congress, directed my national security team to engage with their Israeli counterparts, military to military, intelligence to intelligence, diplomat to diplomat, to make sure Israel has what it needs. I've also directed my team to remain in constant contact with leaders throughout the region, including Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Oman, the UAE, as well as our European partners and the Palestinian Authority. It's also a terrible tragedy on a human level. It's hurting innocent people. Seeing the lives that have been broken by this, the families torn apart, it's heartbreaking. And Jill and I are praying for those families who've been impacted by this violence. We grieve with those who've lost their loved ones, lost a piece of their soul. We have hope for swift recovery for many who have been wounded. We're going to remain in close touch with Prime Minister. I personally am going to remain in close contact with Prime Minister Netanyahu as this situation continues to develop. And let there be no mistake, the United States stands with the state of Israel, just as we have from the moment the United States became the first nation to recognize Israel 11 minutes after its founding 75 years ago. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, was there an intelligence failure in the lead up to this?
He's not going to answer any questions. We go back to let's go back with Derek here. Let's have Derek back in. Derek, we've been talking about this for weeks about what the next step was going to be, and it's astonishing, as we've been saying, that when it happens, folks, it's not going to happen a little at a time. It'll be a cascade event. Everything all at once. That's what they've been setting this up for. And if, for those of you who follow and say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, let's look at what's just happened in the last few days and your insights. In the last few days, or in the last few months or years, the Biden administration allowed over $80 billion worth of military aid, military equipment to be left in Afghanistan. The military experts, analysts said that equipment most likely landed up in the hands of Hamas. Just a few weeks ago, the Biden administration gave $6 billion. That's $6 billion to Iran, who has now decided they're going to partner with Hamas. They're offering support. Also going on, we've given hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine that has a Nazi problem. Folks, this isn't by mistake. This is by design. You can't look at it anymore and say that all of these issues are not connected. Derek, your opinion on this?
Oh, there's no question about it. Obviously, those weapons went from Afghanistan. You know, they're going to sell them. They're going to keep some of them, but they're going to sell a whole lot of them. And yes, they're going to make it into Hamas hands. And, you know, but it's crazy to think that this is, when people say it's an unprovoked situation, you have to understand how far back this goes. I mean, this fight over this land has been going on a long time. So there's a lot of people involved. But we have, you know, they're going to be targeting Hamas. So Hamas is going to be obviously the center of their focus of attention, which obviously is Iran and Lebanon. So and they're funneling these weapons. It was funny that I had posted a video on Twitter where they were showing this Israeli soldier. They were dancing all over his body. Just terrible footage.
Inside to eradicate
I'm sorry,
the terrorists.
I'll go back and have that back on there. Go ahead.
And they were picking up their shell casings from the ground, and people kept asking, why are they picking up their shell casings? That's evidence that they're going to reuse them because they don't have tons of supplies. So this is guerrilla warfare, guerrilla tactics on their part. But it's amazing, it's astonishing, and it's a massive intelligence failure. It almost seems like it was allowed to happen to some degree.
I agree with you. Because if you look at it, the two countries on the face of the earth that have some of the best intelligence apparatus is the United States and Israel. I mean, they're almost tied at the hip. The fact that no one knew that this was going to happen, very similar to 9/11, right?
I was just going to say that. Very similar. Oh, we just didn't know. We happened to, yeah.
So folks, we've been talking about it. I've been very adamant about it for months, and particularly the last 2 years, but saying that it doesn't get any better. What's going on in this country, what's going on in this world does not get any better. It only gets worse. An election in 2024 is not going to save us. We're not going to make it to 2024 at this pace. You've seen it in the streets. You've seen what's happening. Insanity running amok. And the only way it stops is for you to step forward and tell the bullies we're done. I don't want violence in the streets. I don't want a civil war. I don't want a revolution. But at some point, we've got to turn around and make these people understand that they can't continue down this path and remain in the seats of power that they currently are. Somebody said the other day, well, you want a revolution? You want civil war? No, I do not. I want the corruption to end. You want to overthrow the government? No, I want the corruption to end. I want these kind of things to stop. What Trump said in his interview was true. I just want everybody to stop dying. Isn't that the goal?
Yeah, that you would think that would be the goal, right? But see, that's not, and that's why that narrative doesn't fly, because they want this continuation of war. I mean, the folks that are in power, they're siphoning money through all of this.
Yep.
All of these endless wars, the military-industrial complex, that funnels. All of these people own shares and stock. The selling of the weapons. Granted, I mean, they're offering right now, Israel, we're going to give you whatever you need. You need money and weapons. It's like, it's the craziest thing to think about. That is, does Israel need our money? Really? This is an incredibly wealthy country. They've got weapons coming out their nose. These people manufacture weapons. I mean, I ran an Israeli intelligence company. So, I know in Rana, Israel, believe me, that country doesn't need our assistance at all. So what is really going on here?
We're taking calls right now. You can join us at 1-877-619-3899. If you want to join Derek and I and talk about what your views on this, the phone lines are open. You can call at 877-619-3899. Would love to hear what you have to say. Derek, you've been very interested in this subject for the last several years, and a lot of your lives and podcasts and a lot of the stuff that you have up on YouTube, you talk about the importance of Israel and what the Bible says is going to happen, the role that Israel plays. Where do you see us in that right now? And as you know, I'm on the border of the Christianity thing, right? So explain it to somebody like me why what's happening today is so important, according to the Book of Revelations and the end times.
Sure. Well, the thing is that I think everybody's starting to realize is that the powers that be, when it comes to scripture, you just want to focus on the red letters and the gospels if you want to actually understand the entire mission of what Christ was, and not the Messianic version that Judaism has put out there.
Right.
Now, the book of John itself is speculated to be written by the apostle because he was in prison on Patmos, but it was a vision of something that was going to take place, and it already did take place. That all of everything that he said would took place. There is nothing new under the sun. We are in cycles of doing this same exact thing.
Right.
And that's what the book of Revelations is that you realize that they want to fulfill these prophecies. That's what makes the delusion of the delusional side of Christianity, which I would call the apostate church. The delusion of it creates the fear and the structure that allows them to scare everybody.
Well, we're at a position right now. This is what I told. I had a live this morning on Instagram, and one of the things that I talked about at length is that all people do everything that they do for themselves. Now they'll try to convince themselves that it's for someone else. I help that person, but at the end of the day, you're doing it for how it makes you feel. How it makes you feel inside, the emotions that it gives you. No one does anything for anybody else without it benefiting them first. And what we've looked at is that over the last several years is the American people in particular, but the world as a whole has become very narcissistic with everything but their freedoms and their liberties. And they don't understand that what's happening and what we've been preaching about. And when I say preaching, evangelizing about, I know that these are religious terms, but it's really, we're canaries in the coal mine telling you what's going to happen. Whether you believe in the book of Revelations or not doesn't matter. The plan that's in place is the plan that's in place. And I know that they have a plan. The reason I know they have a plan is because I read their book. I read the book. This is the plan. For those of you who are listening to Q or following Q and looking for the drops, there's no plan. There's a bunch of statements to misguide you and mislead you and to make you think that somebody else is going to come save you. Meanwhile, this is the plan that's being enacted. In the last couple of days, we've learned that the FBI has created a category of potential terrorist in our nation. They call it a threat because of who they voted for. For the first time in this nation, they're identifying a group of people as a threat to the democracy, a threat to the country. And when I say the democracy, I mean their democracy, not ours. We're a republic.
For certain.
That's what's happening, is that the FBI has said now, because of who you voted for, you're a threat to the nation. Folks, these are the final days. Whether you believe it or not, whether you care or not, these are the final days of this nation if you don't stand up and make your voice heard. When the FBI says that, they're not joking around. They've got the FEMA camps. There's a FEMA camp in this country that can hold up to 2 million people. Where do you think those people are coming from? You think we're bringing them from other places? Well, we're going to use that. We're going to use that to house people in case of an emergency. Bullshit. We saw what the Karens were willing to do during COVID. Now they think that we're a threat to their nation. What do you think happens next?
The jackboot on your throat. That's what's next.
Right there. Then, if you don't believe me, she's gone from saying that all MAGA members are deplorables to saying now that they should be rounded up and re-educated. Folks, you can't make it any more clear than that. When somebody says they want me dead, when they want me gone, when they're censoring me, I believe them. I take them at their word. Derek, what do you think?
Absolutely. Look, and this is the narcissistic society that we're seeing, that separation. That is the separation of the wheat from the chaff. The narcissists, these people won't take responsibility for themselves. They'll never take accountability for their actions. They'll never admit that they've done something wrong. You witness it in every single politician. You witness it in every single officer. Look, the jackboot, when it does come on your throat, it's not going to be a blue UN helmet. You watched it during COVID. You watched the police be completely willing to violate your rights. They don't have an issue violating your rights. Anyone that thinks that this isn't coming, that the boot isn't coming on your throat, especially if you voted for somebody that they don't like. And we're not going to have another election that is going to be, I mean, first of all, we haven't had elections. They're selections, and they always have been. I don't think that we've actually ever even had a real election in this country, if you really go back and understand the real true history behind it. But yeah, that jackboot is coming, Kramer. It's and people don't, you know what? They won't acknowledge it. You'll get arrested and charged, and you know what they'll do? That person that hasn't had the jackboot yet will go, oh well, Kramer must have done something wrong.
He should have. Yeah, it was him. It was all something he did. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Let's jump in here real quick. They're doing a live report from Israel. Let's take a look and see what they've got here.
It's escalating right now.
It is. It's picking up right now. You can tell. Okay, let me transposition there and then put the audio in. Here we go.
Trey, is there any sense of the military strategy in dealing with the hostages that have been taken? Reports the Hamas terrorists went house to house, killing civilians, dragging them out. There's been video of desecration of bodies, taking hostages, soldiers and civilians, bringing them into the tunnels, perhaps so Israel wouldn't bomb the tunnels. Is this part of the calculation by the IDF to deal with this?
Yeah, it's a very challenging situation. Hamas released a statement saying that the hostages that were taken from Israel and turned into prisoners of war are currently in the tunnels beneath the Gaza Strip, the same place where Hamas stores their weapons, their fighters, and their rockets. And traditionally, Israel would strike those tunnels, but they are faced with a dilemma tonight, what to hit inside Gaza and ensure that they're not killing their own civilians or soldiers that were taken into the Strip earlier today. It's important for us to paint the scene here for our viewers about what has occurred. This is the most significant attack on Israeli territory in decades. We have seen with our eyes and our cameras Israeli soldiers die in front of us, wounded civilians being loaded into ambulances, and images from a city very close to here where militants were fighting up until just a few hours ago of bodies strewn throughout the street. This is hell on earth for the Israeli population and many who were participating in the Jewish day of Shabbat, Saturday, where they were not using technology. When the sun went down, they turned on their phones and their computers and realized just the true nature of what has taken place here in southern Israel, a massacre. Eric.
There you go. It doesn't get any better, folks.
No, we're there.
They do not know how to make it better. I've been saying for a long time, there's two people that you have to worry about most: idiots and bullies. Idiots are incompetent. They'll walk you right into a house fire and won't even recognize it. A bully will push you into the house fire. If you don't understand where we are, and if you don't grasp it, you're going to be a victim of this globalization that they want. This is by design. And by the way, the southern border issue that we've got going on, these are military-aged men that are rolling across our southern border. This exact same thing is going to be coming to our streets soon. If you don't think so, if you think I'm a moron and I'm not paying attention and I'm making shit up, look at what's happening in Israel today. One moment they were at peace, the next moment they're at war. It's a cascade event. Emergencies, chaos never happens slowly. It has to happen all at one time. That's what overwhelms your senses. We've been screaming about it for 2 years. It's here. They cannot allow the 2024 election to happen. I'll probably lose my YouTube stream for this, but they can't allow it to happen. They're this close. They're this close.
And and they're paying. Look, they're paying these men when they come into the country $2,200 a month, $2,200 a month. It's crazy. You can't even get $2,200 a month from them.
No.
So think about this: that these men come up and they're coming from, all of these countries like Venezuela, who their currency collapsed. I mean, there is no life for them there. So to come and get $2,200 and be allowed to live in the United States and even provided housing, you think these guys are going to, if they arm them and turn them against the American people, you think that they're not going to honor that because it's not right? No, they're getting paid $2,200 to be a militant. That's essentially what's happening. This is an intentional invasion.
I think that one of the things that we've been talking about is that we kept saying, here's what's going to happen, here's what's going to happen, here's what's going to happen. It has to happen this way. Not our idea. It's the strategy. Once you follow, once that first shoe drops, then you know the path for the second shoe. It's not, you do not have to be a genius to understand this stuff, people. They're bullies on the playground. They've got an agenda. They've moved forward. They've told you what that agenda was. This came out 3 years ago. If you haven't read this book and figured out what they're going to do next, it's on you. The victimhood that you're feeling right now, the helplessness that you're feeling is because you didn't read what they were telling you. You trusted that somebody else was going to come save you. You've trusted for so long that someone else will stand up and fight for your freedoms and your liberties that you don't know how to do it yourself. It's easy. The first thing you do is you use your mouth. Why are they going after our freedoms in Canada right now? Trudeau, just a few weeks ago, they passed new laws that made it impossible for Canadians to post news stories on social media outlets, in particular Facebook.
Yeah, and Canadians can't do what you do right now,
right,
without being approved by the government.
That's right. What I'm doing right now, they just announced just a couple of days ago in Canada that you'll have to be licensed and approved by the government to have a podcast, to speak like we're speaking now, and it'll be monitored.
You don't get it. You don't get any more clear than that. I
No.
mean, if anybody is even remotely oblivious to where this all goes and how quickly it's coming down, and think it won't happen to you in the United States, you're smoking something that you shouldn't be.
Yep. The other thing that they've done, and this is what's interesting, is Google was trying to work a deal with Canada, and Canada has said, no, it's not going to fucking happen. And so Google is now going to stop traffic at the Canadian border, meaning that you won't be able to get information in and out of Canada over the electronic devices that Google handles. The linkage of data into America and the news sites and news sources in America will no longer be available to Canadians. We said this was going to happen 3 years ago. We said when they started forcing masks, when they started forcing vaccines, and we were called crazy. We were called racist. We were called xenophobes. We were called every name in the book. We're here, folks. This is it. This is the final stand for freedom. There's no other nation to go to. You're not going to go and get in a ship or the Pinta, what is it? The Pinta, the Santa Maria, what was the other one? Doesn't matter. The three ships that came to America, we don't have any place to go to. We are the last refuge. And they've allowed an invasion at our southern border because they're ready to do the same thing here. You do not allow millions of military-aged men to invade a nation without a plan. There's no reason, there's no benefit to the American people for that to happen. Why is it happening? We know why it's happening. We're telling you why it's happening. We're not xenophobes. We're not racist. We're not misogynistic. We're not all of the names they call us. We're canaries in the coal mine. And you do not want a silent, quiet canary. You want one that's very loud and very adamant saying, hey, motherfuckers, pay attention. They're coming for you. Derek.
Yes. And, you know, if you think about it, like I've always said, the wall was built to keep you in. The wall wasn't built to keep people out.
That's right.
Clearly. And you're watching that take place. And now they said they were going to rebuild the wall. They're going to start building the wall again. And then they, the next day, reversed that and said they're not going to build that wall again. I looked at it as that it's either, if they are going to build the wall again, it's because they've received enough they want. What have we got? 6 million? We've got 6 million people that have come into the country just in the past, what is it, 6 months or something? 6 million men. And this is not going to end well. That wall, you know, when I've spoken to the military here in Mexico. I live in Mexico. And I've spoken to the military here on the wall. And they said that they train to defend that wall against a potential massive migration of people from America into Mexico. So why are they preparing for that here?
Right.
They know something we don't.
Well, that's the whole thing, Derek, and we've been saying it for a long time. You and I have been talking about this for years. We've been warning about it for years. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're not crazy. We don't have tinfoil hats on. We told you this is where it was going to land. And Derek, I want to be real clear about this because a lot of people don't understand this. Okay. Give the people who don't know who Derek Broze is a background on who you are and what you've done. And the reason I'm saying this is because highly successful people, the reason they get to be highly successful people is because they look at the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They look at that on a daily basis and they say, what do I have to solve today that's going to make me successful tomorrow? They don't just accept things the way that they are, right? So with that being the case, Derek, explain to the audience how you got to where you are and the insights that you have, why you came to those conclusions.
Well, it's an amazing. I was in Hollywood for quite some time. I managed Cuba Gooding Jr. for 15 years during his whole Oscar run, and after that, I'm not responsible for anything after Men of Honor. So Boat Trip and Rat Race, and I'm not responsible for. But from there, I went into technology, ran an Israeli technology firm in Ra'anana, Israel, made up of 75 of the best hackers from the Technion Institute. Board of directors, I had some of the world leaders, including Benjamin Netanyahu, even on the board of directors of that Israeli company. And what I witnessed in that company started to reveal a lot of things to me. I ended up I ran Kazaa, the file sharing network, was sued for $250 billion. We ended up winning that in the Supreme Court, went from there to Microsoft. Now at Microsoft, as an executive at Microsoft, I ran global wireless strategy and business development, and I ran Windows strategy. And when you're at that level and you're working at that level, you come in contact with people and truths are revealed. And I'm going to give you a story about a conversation to just how I woke up. Is that a conversation that I was having with one of the founders of Microsoft, Paul Allen, who owned the Seahawks at the time. And there's a very specific reason why I'm telling you this. And he was talking to me about running a museum that he had in Seattle. And this is after I had left Microsoft. And I was talking about the loss that the Seahawks had during the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they were stomping the Steelers, and then all of the calls, and it was proven to be a completely rigged game, that they gave the game to the Steelers because the Steelers owner died and all sorts of things took place, and they're like NFL royalty. And I said to him, and he made massive investments in the city and all that to get the Seahawks and to be able to buy them. In his agreement with the NFL, he told me, he goes, oh, no, they've already guaranteed us 4 Super Bowls. And I said, what? And he goes, and I'm not kidding you. And I said, are you kidding me? And he said, you don't think that we leave billions of dollars up to a bunch of N-words on the field, do you? And that was just startling to me. I could never watch the game and like it again. I could never, because I now see through it. The veil was broken. And that's when you start to get into that level where they talk to you about things. And an example, when I was making movies, I couldn't hear you, but when I was making movies, and we made Outbreak about the Ebola outbreak, right? We went to the CDC and they told us point blank that they had weaponized Ebola. They told us because they were talking to a bunch of movie stars, Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Cuba Gooding Jr., Morgan Freeman. They were like googly-eyed, and they just dropped dime on the whole program right to our faces when we were there. So these are the things that woke me up. And the second I started speaking out about it, and I helped Andrew Breitbart take down Anthony Weiner. There's a whole bunch of things that have taken place. But immediately when that started to happen, I was attacked at levels you couldn't, from everywhere, from feds. I've been hassled and hunted ever since I broke out, essentially. And that's what's happened. And that's why we're here.
Derek, the issue that I think that is heaviest on people's heart today is how far does it go, right? And is it going to get better? And how's it going to affect me? Now, here's what's interesting. I went out today. I called you and I said, hey, listen, let's go live later this afternoon, and had to do some running to go make that happen. And so I'm out and about, and I'm at the store. And while I'm at the store, guess what I saw? Person after person going about their day, having no idea what the state of our nation, the state of the planet. We are at the verge of a World War III, the thing that we've been talking about for ages, right? Everybody who needs to start World War III is already currently at war or sponsoring war. And this thing in the Middle East does not just happen. Israel is one of our staunchest allies. For years, Biden said it today, we're going to defend them, whatever that means, I don't know. But it doesn't move forward. We do not move forward, Derek, and go back to the good old days. There's an agenda here, and there's a lady online. I'll have to find this video and bring it up if I can. There's a lady online that made the comment. She says, why is it all military-aged men? What's the purpose? What's the agenda? Because Putin has already told his people what's going on and what to expect, and he's already started to show them what's coming and how to protect themselves. We haven't seen that. But our systems are being tested for something coming up. There's no reason to do a national EAS test, than for any other reason to have it available. They wanted to make sure it's working. Oh, Kramer, they do that listen, I came from broadcasting. This is not normal, folks. It's not normal. No, the EAS frequencies aren't going to turn your brain into mush or turn you into a goddamn zombie. But what it will do is let them know what number of the people in the nation that they can touch and contact immediately. They know that. It's being used for something else, and we're not being told. We're not being informed. Meanwhile, when we go ask about simple things like our elections, we're told that we're a problem. If we don't want our children to be taught in a specific way, we're the threat. When in America has this ever happened? Derek, does it get better on the current path that we're walking, that we're going?
Well, not according to the stage that they've set. See, if you look at the elites and you look at Israel and you understand the landscape of where we're at, Israel, from a Talmudic standpoint, sees the USA, regardless of whether, they say that we're their staunchest ally. Benjamin Netanyahu has said multiple times that America is the new Rome, and that is Edom, right? So to Talmudic Jews, Edom is destroyed in the end. So Edom is America. I don't think that they want America to succeed anymore. I think that the plan is to destroy it and to alter it and to change it. Does it get any better? I don't think people realize the gravity of the situation. The United States will never be what it was again. You will not be able to take back your country. But take back what? I mean, what are you going to take back? Because it was already corporatized. It was already bad. Now the corruption is so deep at every level, from the local all the way to the top. Your local judges, your local law enforcement, all the way to the top of the United States of America is corrupt at every single level. And no one trusts it. They don't trust their doctors. They don't trust the cops. They don't trust the courts. They don't trust judges. They don't trust the media. They don't trust anybody. All of the institutions that you used to trust and rely on, people no longer trust, not even their own personal doctor. So how does that get fixed? It doesn't yet. It has to be burnt. It's got to be scrapped. There's so much poison in it that people will never believe it again. And that's the problem. You can't get them to believe in it again. Yep. They won't believe in it until it's completely changed, altered.
They want you to lose faith in the country that you were sold. They want you to lose faith in it so that you no longer believe, not that the institutions don't work. Well, that really is, but there's no hope. There's no faith. There's no future. When you don't have hope, there's no future, folks. They've already told you what they're going to do. If you read their plan, if you go and read what they said, they let me again, Derek, back me up on this. You write a book. From the moment you put the first letter on the page to the moment that this hits the shelves, it takes about 2 years. 2 years. That's the process. Am I correct, Derek?
It depends on how. I mean, you can get it done quicker if you have to today. Things have changed. But to get mass circulation and to get it published and put in all of these places, it takes some time.
Let's step back. Let's be more realistic about it. The moment that this book was printed, there's a process that it has to go through that I know for sure, because my dad was in this industry, takes about 3 to 6 months for it to happen. This has to be printed, then the print has to be checked, then they go to the book cutters, the book binderies, put them together. They go from there to back to a warehouse, from the warehouse back to a store. That takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get this on the shelf, the least amount of time. Printing and so on, the logistics behind that is 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months is what it takes.
Well, they had that already rewritten.
Okay. It was released in June of 2020. I have a first edition. It was released in June of 2020, just about the time they started talking about the mRNA vaccines, and they started talking about what they're going to do next. And we're all in this together. They already had a book planned of all the things that were going to happen. And when you go through and read this book, they're telling you what's going on. They're telling you what's happening. They're telling you how people are suffering and how there's certain groups that aren't going to do it. There's other groups that are going to be Karens. They lined the entire thing out in this book. It was released in June of 2020, folks. That's impossible. This is their plan. There is no queue. There's no group coming to save you. Your liberties, your freedom, and the future of this nation rely 100% on you. Your willingness to defend yourself. I've said it a million times. I'm not fighting for anyone's freedoms other than my own. That's who I'm fighting.
You know, and it's funny, Kramer, everything that I've spoken about, you know, I've been on YouTube talking, breaking down the lies within scriptures and the apostate church that we have today.
Yep.
And my constant message has always been, it's about your own sovereignty and handling yourself, the government resting on your shoulders. The entire message of Christ is about escaping the government and the religious rule, right? Everything that he talked about. And this is about individualizing it, just as you said. You don't try to save anybody else. First, save yourself. You won't be able to save anyone else.
Yep.
And it's all about you. Go inside. It's an inside job. And this is where you really do have to love thy neighbor as thyself, because they're just as duped as everybody else. Like, I have now compassion on those that can't see. I don't get angry at them anymore. I have compassion on them because it's like, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. They're literally out to lunch. And Christ was very clear about that. I mean, think about just how rude this is when a guy comes up and says, hey, I want to follow you, but first I'm going to go bury my father. And he said, let the dead bury the dead.
Yep.
That they're already dead. I mean, think about that statement. That's the harshest thing you could possibly say. He was like, screw them. They're all dead anyway.
And here's the thing. This is a point I want to make for people. Derek is a close friend. We've had some really in-depth conversations about what's going to happen next. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb here to say that you're what I would call a hardcore Christian. Would I be right there, Derek?
I don't go by any tag. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore Christian. I'm a follower of the message and the purpose of Christ, right? Because when people say, are you a Christian? I don't know. There's 22,000 plus denominations. Which version of Christianity would you like me to agree or not to agree to be? You know,
Right.
So it's like, which version of the 14,000 different translations of the Bible am I agreeing with? I mean, seriously, you can't, it's not simple.
With that being said, right, you're at least educated on the subject and know what your thoughts are and where you are. On the other side of that spectrum is me. I'm not atheist. I'm agnostic. I don't know. I was raised in the church. My dad was an evangelical minister. Derek can back me up on this, is that when we have in-depth conversations, we have in-depth conversations because I was raised in the church.
Yeah, you've heard the scriptures. You know what the church does. Yeah, so you know all of these things. So when I bring them up, and so when I bring them up to people, and I bring them up in the contrast of the idea of what Christ was talking about, people see it and they're like, holy crap, how did I not ever see this? So the Antichrist, so Christ in you. And this is the way when you say I'm not an atheist, people would call me an atheist because I don't believe in their monotheistic God of blood sacrifice, right? I'm sorry, but I just think a God that created me and screwed up in creating me needs me to kill an animal and sprinkle its blood, something else that he created on an altar, so I can have forgiveness of sins. That sounds like some bloodthirsty psychopath to me.
And now, well, my point, Derek, with all of this is that Derek and I don't agree 100% on what we discuss at all, right? I mean,
all the time. We disagree all the time.
All the time.
But we know how to have a conversation.
Have a conversation that, I can go, well, I disagree with that. Maybe I'll look more into it. And the same thing with Derek. My point is that we can have opposing views and not go to war with each other. That ability is lost in America today. And it's
100%.
time for the American people to realize that we are not the problem. What's happening in Ukraine, what's happening at the southern border, all these issues, we didn't do those. The people that we gave our power to, the people that we gave our proxies to, the people that we said, go govern. We didn't say go rule. We didn't say go dictate. We said go govern. We're going to give you the keys to the kingdom. Go over there and do your job and don't fuck it up. But humans are humans, and humans do what humans do, and they always do what's best for them. Again, people go, well, I help the little kids in the burn unit for them. No, you do it for you. It makes you feel virtuous. It gives you a glowing feel in your heart, and that's wonderful. But you do it for you. Phone lines are open at 877-619-3899. If you'd like to talk to me or to Derek about what's going on today, what we've learned in the last couple of weeks, in particular the last few days, that MAGA has now been stipulated as a terroristic threat by the FBI inside the U.S., inside the United States. Hillary Clinton is saying that Americans should be rounded up. If they voted for Trump, if they support Trump, they should be rounded up. And they should be sent to a deprogramming camp, deprogrammed. We've got the Canadian government silencing their citizens, licensing podcasts, controlling what can and can't be said, stopping the flow of information across the border through Google. Folks, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better because the bullies are doing what bullies do. They're evil. They will not stop. They will not relent. And the reason they will not relent is simple. It's easy. They want everything.
Power corrupts, absolutely.
That's it. They want everything. And how do I know that they want everything? Because Derek, Klaus Schwab has made it very clear. The guy that they're all listening to, our politicians, the people that we elect, they're not coming to see us. They're not knocking on our door. They're not going down to the southern border to see what's going on. They're not going into the homes of people who can't make ends meet and their children are starving. They're not going there. They're going to Davos. They're going to Davos and listening to a man who's unelected. They're listening to what he has to say. And what he says is that you will own nothing and be happy. That's who they're listening to. That's who they're getting their marching orders from. They're not taking them from you. They're not taking them from me. At some point, you've got to wake up and realize that what's happening is by design. How do I know? I'm going to go back to the success factor. Derek, you've worked on large campaigns, big budget films. You've done. Does anything happen without a plan? Do you go and give, if you were, when you were working at Paramount, did you go give a director, $100 million and say, okay, now go do what you want to do? Or was there a plan in place, clearly lined out, and with the strategy and the tactics, the timelines, didn't you go through that before you ever allowed them to walk off the lot with your money?
Oh, 1,000%. You've got to get that thing bonded and licensed and insured, and you got to get the actors bonded and insured. And there's a whole bunch of things that have to take place in order before you even remotely start handing out cash. Absolutely. And anything it's called planning. Yep.
And do you see the same exact thing happen here? I mean, we know that we have UN soldiers now in this country that are getting paid $2,200 a month just to be here. They were told to go to certain cities and wait for an instruction. They were given cash and given a phone. They were given a credit card that allows them to get cash. And they were told to just go and wait. Story after story at the border that's being told. These people that are coming across the border, folks, wake the fuck up. I gain no benefit from being the canary in the coal mine other than at the end of the day being able to say, I think I saved this many lives by being loud about what was going on. I want to save my life. I want to save the lives of my children and my grandchildren. To be real honest with you, and being narcissistic, I don't care about anybody else. I care about those closest to me. I have to help them, protect them first. And if you're doing the exact same thing, then we can stand shoulder to shoulder and defend our rights and our freedoms from these tyrants that are going to do what they're going to do. This deal in Israel was planned. It was planned years ago. That's why Joe Biden left Afghanistan the way that he did, left all of that gear there. It's too expensive to bring back. No, it was going to be a political cost if we said, hey, we're just going to give it to Hamas.
Well, typically, if it's too expensive to bring back, then how about melting it all down so nobody else has it? But that's not how it goes down.
No, it didn't get destroyed. So these asinine answers that they give you, they're not common sense answers. They're not lowest common denominator answers. They're lies meant to trick and deceive you, like they've done for the last 3 years. You can't listen to the people that lied to you. I'll get real crass. If I walk in to a room and I see my wife sucking another man's dick, let's get down to brass tacks here. I ain't gonna believe her anymore. I don't care what she says. I don't care how she smiles at me. Doesn't matter. I cannot believe her anymore. Ever. Done. Now, the difference is that we walked into the room, and what we walked into the room was there was a mirror there, and we realized there's somebody on our back fucking us in the ass. That's the government. That's what they've been doing. They've been lying to us the entire time and fucking us the entire time. At some point, you've got to say enough is enough. I do not want to overthrow the government. We got to get the corrupt out. We got to get the tyrants out. We got to get the Karens out. Those that would tell us what we have to do, what we must do with our lives, they've got to go. Would you agree, Derek?
Yes. Stop cooperating with them. Stop paying your taxes. Stop.
Mass non-compliance. Stop.
Absolutely. Massive. That's the best way. You want to cripple them financially.
Yep.
Make it impossible for them to exist.
Yep.
Then you don't have to fire a weapon. You don't got to hurt anybody.
Because what do they keep saying? How dangerous was shutting down the government? And everybody's going, oh, those Republicans and those Democrats, they're threatening to. You can shut down the government immediately. You stop sending your taxes in. You just go into your boss and say, listen, I want to change my tax status to 0. I want to take all the money that I can home. I want all my money. I got 20 dependents. I got 20 dependents living on my block. What do you mean by that? Well, there's a heroin addict. There's the fentanyl addict. There's the illegal alien over there. These are my dependents now. I get to start picking them. And I start getting I'm not going to pay taxes on it. Just think about that. We control it. We are being told, folks, again, and this is one of the things that I do. Because I used to write a lot of comedy for morning shows and so on. And comedy is all based on contrast, right? So if you say something one way, it can be taken as mean, and yet you put a word and a little spin on it, and then it's funny. But one of the things that class clowns are really good at is contrast, understanding contrast. So go ask anybody in the U.S. government right now where the money that we've sent to Ukraine, where it's at. What accountability do we have? Who got the money? Where did it go? They can't tell you. Meanwhile, the same exact people are demanding that they be allowed to know how much you receive in your bank account, how much you spend in your bank account, to as little as $600. Meanwhile, they can't tell you where over $130 billion has gone. Does it get better with the same people in place? It does not. Why? They don't know what they're doing, or they do, and they're corrupt. They're either corrupt or inept. It's their choice. I don't care which one it is, but they got to go. If you want to make your voice heard, 877-619-3899. Derek, explain to the audience why you put yourself in Mexico. Why are you there?
I'm tired of being hunted. And
oh, we lost you there for a second. I think you dropped.
You know, there's a real reason is because, first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Economically, it's very economically feasible here. Rent is very cheap.
Well, all of a sudden he's gone. I think the NSA is messing with us because he's coming in from outside the country. Again, think about this in this nation. Derek, while you're out,
is good. Food is better. They don't have fun. Sorry about that. I think probably.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully you can hear me. It's economically feasible, and being here allows you to say what you need to say without fear of the reprisal. However, they do come after you financially. They've come after my bank accounts, just like, the ESG. So PayPal shut down a PayPal account of mine saying because of my social media posts. So it's already happening. It's taking place. It allows me to also see things from a completely different perspective. There are 0 entitlements here. Zero. Nobody's entitled to anything. Everybody makes their own living here. It's really a remarkable place.
So when you decided to do that, one of the other things that we talked about is that in America, people now fear their government. Think about that. The reason that this nation was founded, with the Constitution the way that it is, and the rules that we put in place, is so that we as Americans didn't have to fear our government. And people who the people who don't want the Constitution, the people that say that it's a dead piece of paper, that it's not a living document, that it was written by a bunch of old white guys. By the way, the majority of those old white guys, well, the average age was 44. So not really the narrative that they've been selling. The first person to be killed in the Revolutionary War in this nation, the founding of this nation, was a black citizen, a black man by the name of Crispus Attucks. They don't tell you that in school. You see, there was a black man, a black free man, fighting for his freedom along with his white neighbors. Did you know that? Were you aware of that? No, you probably weren't, because it doesn't fit the narrative that this nation was founded by free men. Yes, they had slavery. They battled over that. And what did they do? Oh, they made black men 3/5 of a person. That was a compromise made. It was a compromise made because there was a group of people there that just 100 years later would go to war to maintain that slavery. Meanwhile, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence is very clear. What it said is a more perfect nation. Not perfect. Nope. It's created by man. It'll never be perfect. The Son of Man makes everything impossible to be perfect and pure. There's sin. And when I say sin, I don't mean biblical sin. I mean evil in men's hearts. We're seeing it. It's being played out on a daily basis. When you see a young man stabbed to death in the middle of the street, that's evil. That's sin. Whatever you want to call it, it's not normal. Yet we're being told that it's normal. They've effeminized our men throughout the last 20 years in schools. They wouldn't allow the little boys to fight and learn how to defend themselves. No, they became a bunch of little girls. So when they're finally attacked, a 6'2" man attacked by a 5'7" dude, and the 5'7" dude wins, what the fuck do you think's going on in this nation? I'll tell you what's going on in this nation. They've taken away our ability to defend ourselves. It'll be us graybeards, us that know what evil is. We've seen it for 60, 70 years. We understand what one man is capable of doing to another man, what they can justify. And just 70 years ago, there was a group of people, the us versus them, that said, hey, listen, we don't think that those people over there with the big ears and the big noses and the ones that run all the money, we don't like them anymore. We think that we should put them in gas chambers. And so you were able to see how they epitomized the Jewish people at that time. Big ears, big nose. They were droopy. They looked like gargoyles, or they looked like goons. That's how they pictured them. Go over to Threads for a moment if you got a chance and see what's being said about us. If you've ever been to Gab, I don't go to Gab. Gab is anti-Semitic. I don't go there. There's a bunch of anti-Semites on Gab. I'm sure there's some very fine people too, but there's some anti-Semites over there. And that the same exact vitriol that you hear on Gab against the Jewish people, you see right now against MAGA. Post after post after post after post about how we've got to be eradicated. That's the mentality of those in power right now. Now, I would say it's all bullshit. You go over to Gab, there's nobody on Gab that's got the power to make anything that they're saying happen. It's a bunch of idiots that are keyboard haters. They like to spew their hate. They're upset at the world because they feel that they've lost everything because somebody else put them as a victim. Generally, 9 times out of 10, it's because of bad decisions. But you go over to Gab or you go over to the Threads, they're doing the exact same thing. They're saying the exact same thing against MAGA. The difference is that the guys on Gab don't have Hillary Clinton at the top justifying locking people up and deprogramming them. Would you agree, Derek?
Absolutely. I mean, well, Gab is an interesting place. Yes, you can speak freely, but yes, you get a lot of hate for a lot of different people.
Yep.
I would steer clear of that place for sure. But they are definitely putting everybody, putting the Trump voters into a place where they're telegraphing that they're coming for you.
Oh, exactly. They are not quiet at all about it. They are definitely coming for MAGA voters, MAGA support. Listen, Never before in our history has a former president been stripped of his right to do business in a state. They're not doing that because he did something wrong. That's how the bullies on the playground play. That's what they do.
They've all done something wrong.
Right.
They've all done something. See, that is the elite status. And that's exactly what Jeffrey Epstein's all about. It's just a blackmail list, right? So they get everybody guilty. And if you get out of line, they're going to make you pay the price because they know your crimes because they've committed the same ones.
Yep.
And that's why people liked Trump, because he pointed that out. Like during the debates, he was like, yeah, of course I abuse the tax code. Yeah, of course I do those things. That's why people liked him, because he pointed out that the elites do this crap.
Yep.
At least he was honest.
Well, and it's amazing to me that the people that are blaming him are the ones who put that law into place. Right? I mean,
they're terrified of that guy.
They're
terrified. They're terrified of that man getting back in power because they know, and they've said, I can't remember who it was, but he said, if Trump gets reelected and he gets back into the White House, he's going to put all of us in prison.
Yep.
They're terrified that will happen. They will fight like hell. And you know what they're even more scared of? They're scared of the people that back him, because they are the only ones that they will have to battle if there is an uprising. They know it. That's why they're coming for you.
Well, here's what I can tell you. They take Trump down. The sleeping bears have been awakened. They take Trump down, 5 more rise in his place. They take them down, 5 more rise in each place. You can't stop this. You see, freedom is an ideology. Most people like it, but 80% of people don't have the ability to stand up for themselves. They'll never stand up to bully. 80%. It takes 20% of us to say, fuck, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to do it. And even less than that to institute it. Again, I'm not calling for revolution. I'm not calling for civil war. I'm calling for these people in power, those that we've given power to, that are using it against we the people. When they turn around and say that half the nation, I got to say this again, half the nation are terrorists because of who they voted for. The FBI just classified a group as a threat because of who they voted for, people. Wake the fuck up. It doesn't get better. It only
that's Banana Republic stuff.
That's it, right there. I mean, think about this. We're on a Saturday afternoon, instead of being outside enjoying ourselves as the fall rolls into Indiana. We're talking about what's going on in Israel, because this is what it looks like when the other shoe drops. When it hits the floor, this is what it looks like. The military gear that was left in Afghanistan, not left there by accident. Nothing happens by accident in government. Nothing. Mistakes happen by accident. Oversights happen by accident. Right? Ineptness happens. But Hamas having the gear that they have, an attack, I'll bet you the other reason that they're picking up the shells and so on is not because that they're short on supplies, is because it would implicate where they got those weapons from.
That could be the case too. Yeah, absolutely. But if you are in Gaza, I mean, if you've ever been there, there's really not a lot there. I can't imagine it's very easy for that. It's not like you go down to your local store and buy yourself 1,000 rounds of ammo either. But yeah, I mean, it would definitely implicate where they came from.
Yep. We've got dark days in front of us, folks, and the only way that it stops is you. You have to start demanding your freedom. You have to stop being afraid. I want to be very clear about it. Once the wheels are put into motion, they don't stop. The machine is rolling. And the machine is not going to fix itself. Jim Jordan, Donald Trump, none of these men, none of these women that go to the camera every day say, I'm fighting for you. None of them can stop what's rolling down the pike. Why? Because they're worried about doing the right thing and being reelected. They're not being realists. They're not being pragmatic. They think that they can get back to normal if they just keep doing the things that they've been doing. Well, the things that they've been doing got us where we are. It can't be fixed by the people who created the problem. Why? Well, I'll give you a reason. Derek, I don't know how to make an artificial heart. I don't know how to build it. I can try, but I don't know. So I'll get harmed by what I don't know. That's where we are today. Derek and I and others like us, that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. More, even longer than that, but in particular, the last 3 years, because we saw what happened in 2020 with the election, and then we saw what happened with COVID. never before happened in our nation. It was an election that was so transparent and above board that we can't fucking talk about it. Think about that. You risk getting demonetized on YouTube or Facebook or even taken off the platforms altogether if you ask, hey, can we look at the results? Can we see it? Nope. If you look behind the scenes, you're a threat to the country. You're a threat to democracy. I'll put it this way, Derek, and I'll let you speak. Anybody who says that I'm a threat to the democracy is a clear-cut threat to our actual republic.
Think about this. January 6th, there are people that are serving 20 years in prison that weren't even in Washington, D.C., that made social media posts about it. They're serving time. And people that didn't commit any acts of violence. They just happened to be in Washington, D.C., with their families even. I mean, this is clearly to terrify you and to prevent you from raising your voice. They want you scared of them. They need you terrified of them. They need you to shut up. And they're willing to do anything they can do to make that happen. Look at what they're doing to Russell Brand. Look at what they do to these people. They're going to target you and they're going to attack you and they're going to make accusations against you. They'll find a way to get you. That's their goal.
And Derek, it's never, ever, ever, ever. It's never with information that, here you go, here's all the evidence. It's a claim that cannot be proven. It's a he said, she said, a he said, or she said, he said, whatever direction you want to put it. That's what they use. They use things that cannot be proven. One person's word against another. And who do you believe more? Do you believe the guy that's been indicted or the lady over here that says she's been molested?
There was just a Supreme Court decision that now allows them to file charges against you with zero evidence.
Yep.
They just can file them.
Yep.
They can file charges against you with zero evidence. And then once they arrest you, they can add charges on top of that. And now you have to defend against those charges.
We are in a banana republic.
100%.
Yep. So let me ask you this. How does it get better? What do people have to do? I know what I think it is. Derek, we talked about it last night. What's your path forward? What do you think is going to have to happen? What are people going to have to do? Do you think it has to be kinetic, or is there another option?
I don't think that we are going to get out of this without some kinetic action. I just don't see it happening without that. And that's primarily a thing for the trust of the people. If you're ever going to get people to trust in anything else, there's going to have to be some type of kinetic event that's going to make them believe in the physical aspect of it. As far as how it makes it better, first, you got to make yourself better. You got to be at peace in misery, right? The misery has to be around you. We can't allow ourselves to become part of it. We can't allow ourselves to become hateful towards one another. We have to really, really fight to love one another and to forgive people. First, starting with yourself, because we're not going to be able to make the right decisions if we're in that state of hate and anger and all of that. You're just never going to make the right decision. It's never going to help.
And that's one of the things that that's one of the comments I get on social media most is, why are you so angry? And it's like, I'm not angry. I'm not an angry dude. I'm a loving dude. I'm a fun dude. People want to party with me. I have a lot of fun. I am a fun guy. The problem is that we got some very evil people on our planet. And I can't let my granddaughters live in that. I can't leave that to my granddaughters. I can't leave that for my sons. That's our jobs. Our jobs is to make a better environment for our kids and for our grandkids. I love everybody. I don't hate anybody. Well, you're a Republican. You got to hate people because they're black. Everybody that you say that I hate is in my family. My family's a mixed, we're mutts. We got everything in our family. Asian, Hispanic, black, white, and everything in between. So the narrative, the trope that you keep pushing is not true. America is a melting pot. It's the only place on earth that's like this. Try to go to Japan. You've traveled, Derek. What's the most racist countries? Is America the most racist country on the face of the earth?
No, the most racist country on the face of the earth is actually Israel.
There you go.
Because you go there, I can tell you right now, they don't like anyone that isn't them. Yep. They hate them all. They hate them all.
Yep. And there's, it's interesting. I saw a video not too long ago of Israelis. When I say Israelis, it's Hasidic Jews that are in the streets. They're going past a group of Christians, and as they go past a group of Christians, they spit on them. What would happen in this country if a bunch of Baptists went by and spit on a bunch of Catholics at an event? What do you think? What news would that make in this country? It doesn't happen, folks.
No, there are neighborhoods in Israel where the ultra Orthodox, they'll attack you.
Yep, physically.
They'll attack you, physically attack you because you're not dressed properly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and don't ever say Jesus or something like that.
Exactly, and
they'll kill you on the spot.
Yep. My point is, folks, is that we in this country have been told how bad we are for so long, to make us feel bad about ourselves and to be the victims, right? That are the make everybody else on the planet a victim, and that we're the assailant. Or I can't even get it right. We're the aggressor, and you have to start looking into what is actually going on and who we really are as a people. Here's what I know. I've traveled. Go to Japan. See how welcomed you are as an American in Japan when you want to do anything other than be a tourist. See how that works out for you. Go to Southeast Asia and try to do the same thing. Go into the areas of town that you're not supposed to go. Don't stay with the tourist, right? Because they're making money off of you. Go to the places where they don't give a shit who the fuck you are. And what you'll find is that all of a sudden the racism and the xenophobia and all the bullshit that we've been told who we are, it's not there. It's not here. It's there. And what's happening is that we're having an invasion of that. We've got people now in power in our nation, in positions of power, that came from another nation. They don't have the same love for the Constitution that you do. How do I know? Well, because when they took over YouTube or they took over Google and these foreigners took over, they said, we have the right to censor people. We have the right to silence those who we don't like. That is un-American, folks. American companies started doing and saying things that were un-American. Well, we have the right to do that, and we're protecting you. We're protecting you from all that hate. Derek, can you protect people from hate by silencing them? Is that how you protect other people from hate, is by silencing one group?
You can't legislate morality. You can't legislate love. You cannot legislate courtesy. You cannot legislate any of the attributes you need to actually be a decent human being. Yeah. So for anybody to think that they can force somebody to be the way that they want them to is delusional in and of itself, and should tell you that they don't care and that they are willing to increase the level of those attacks upon those people in order to make them shut up. So it's not about legislating anymore. They're going to force it one way or the other. They're going to force it by criminalizing you. So they'll legislate it by legislating your existence out.
I want to make something very clear for those of you who who didn't do well in history. Everything that Hitler did, everything that he did was legal. All the laws that he needed to have passed to do what they did, all the laws that were required to go round people up because of how they looked, or what their ethnicity was, or what their race was, or what their religion was, all those people, the people that were the infirmed, the artists, those that thought differently, the intellects that said, no, we probably don't want to go down this path. All of those people, they were rounded up and they were put into gas chambers. They were killed, their bodies incinerated, and they become dust in the wind. All of that happened. It was legal. By German law, it was legal. The same thing is happening here. If you don't believe me, look at what just happened up in Michigan. They've now made it illegal for you to intentionally use the wrong pronoun with somebody. You can serve up to 5 years in prison for using your mouth in this country. It's already here. The coup happened. Now they just have to maintain it. They just need a little bit more control. They need to ratchet down and get us loudmouths out. They need to get us canaries in the coal mine. They need to kill us. My wife said the other day, she says, we're getting close to the point where I'm really fearful for your life. Derek, should my wife be fearful for my life?
Well, she shouldn't be, but she should be. She shouldn't have to be, but she's rational to believe that, yes, your life could be in danger.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me. This is going to escalate. It's not going to go down. It's not going to stop. This is part of the plan. We kept saying it, that war was the only thing that they can utilize an attack on the U.S. is the only thing they can utilize to lock us all down. That's the next lockdown. They'll utilize strikes. They'll utilize war. We cannot go into 2024 without chaos. It's impossible. And I know that because I'm a strategist. It's what I do for a living. If I was going to screw things up, this is exactly how I would do it. People have no faith. They keep saying the most common comment that I get, Derek, in my content, I'm sure you've seen it too, is, okay, well, nothing's ever going to happen. Oh, that's great news, but nothing's ever going to happen. Derek, why is nothing ever going to happen? Why, in your view, will nothing ever happen? Is it because the people won't do anything, or is it because they're waiting on a politician to do the heavy lifting and defend their freedoms for them?
Oh, they're absolutely waiting for somebody else to solve this problem for them. Nobody wants to lift their finger to try to do it. And if you and I both stood up and said, okay, we're going to go and do this, and we get arrested, then nobody's going to follow. I mean, we would get arrested, we would get targeted because we wouldn't have the numbers, because the people have been placated. They're sleeping. The Q psyop has effectively disabled millions and millions of people. They're believing in some other thing that's going to save them. And you know what? They've been conditioned to do that. Look at the Bible. That's the Bible. Oh, Jesus is going to come. He's going to save us all. He's going to take us all away from this. Folks, look, if Christ said that the return of the Son of Man is like lightning striking in the east, that also flashes in the west. It's wide. It's across a bunch of people. It's not a single man on a cloud. The word cloud was translated improperly. He will appear in the spirit, in the smoke.
Yep.
So this is all of us rising up and separating ourselves from the religious and the governmental institutions. This is what Christ looks like rising. This is what it looks like. People just don't see it. In the same way that they don't see that how the enemy is working, they also don't see how the good is working in people too. And that's who we are. And we will be persecuted for it, just like it was promised. That's how this works.
That's how it works. And you can see it already. Anybody who's spoken out against this, who has a large voice, they've attacked. Right now, Elon Musk, since Biden said that Elon Musk had to be looked into, Elon Musk right now has some of the ballparks of 26 different investigations happening into him. It's not normal, folks. Former U.S. president has been indicted on how many 91 counts? They like to brag about how many times they've indicted him. It just shows how committed they are to moving moving down the path that they want to go. They have an agenda. They know where they want to get. And people like us are in the way. We're the ones saying, these are the motherfuckers who are going to steal your freedom. If you don't realize that we can't do it, we're just messengers. We're modern day Paul Revere's. We're telling you the globalists are here. The globalists are here. The globalists are here. You got to fucking listen. And it's not one if by land and two if by sea. They're here. They're here now. It's not normal to have a shortage of food in America. It's not a normal to have a shortage of anything in this country. Well, we had COVID. What happened with COVID wasn't normal. When the fuck do you wake up? When the fuck do you realize this doesn't get better with the people that are currently in place? No, I do not want revolution. I want the corrupt tyrants out. I want those that are lying to us on a daily basis out. Gone. Replaced with people who will work for we the people. Us. People that want to go back in and do the job. Government's got to be downsized so much at the state, city, every place. You've got to start demanding more. You've got to stop saying, I'm tired of spending my life working for others. I'm tired of working my entire life supporting people who refuse to get out of bed in the morning. I refuse to give money to drug addicts. I refuse to support those who rob and steal from us, and then they come back on the streets, and I've got to be the one that supports them. I've got to go to work and put in 2 extra hours a day for this motherfucker who won't work at all. It's not the way it's supposed to be, folks. Our founding fathers didn't intend for our nation to be in this situation. It's here because we've been lax in keeping those who are responsible for what we're going through accountable, holding them responsible, putting their feet to the fire and saying, you said this and you did this. Joe Biden said that the border was secure. Is it secure? No. There was a mile-long stretch just a few days ago that everybody saw in the nightly news as they were pouring across the border, an invasion happening at our southern border. And suddenly the next day, they're going to build the wall. The poll numbers made them racists. made them xenophobes, made them hate those people. They must believe that there's potentially some robbers and thieves in there, like Trump said as he came down after the escalator. It doesn't get better, folks, until you make it better. They're not going to do it. They're either inept or corrupt. Because if they had the ability to fix it, they'd already done it. They would have already done it. This morning when I called Derek and I said, hey, listen, I got to do this, this, and this. I've got to fix these things before we can go live. Those things had to be done before I could go live. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. It's the same situation here. Nothing changes. Nothing changes unless you're willing to sacrifice something yourself. It takes you stepping forward. It takes you saying, I ain't going to do it anymore. Put yourself back on the playground when you were a kid and the bully was picking on you, or you saw the bully picking on somebody else. For those that are new to my content, I traveled all over the country. My dad was a minister. I went to 14 different schools. I went to 3 different schools in 1 year. You learn a lot about how to deal with bullies when you go through that process. When you have that experience, you realize that bullies only understand one thing: a bigger bully. Somebody who's willing to stand up. Yes, from time to time, I got my ass kicked. But they never messed with me again. They never did it to me again. That's what we've got to do as the American people. Say, listen, we're done. We're not going to be told by lesser men and women how to live our lives. We're not going to be told by our neighbors that we have to tell our neighbors, because that's what we are, folks. This country is we the people. The government is us. It's our neighbors. My state rep was my former neighbor was my state rep. And when he had parties, guess who came over? All the other state reps. And we would all laugh and joke about what was going on, but I was always very cognizant of who they were. They're just my neighbors. They're not my leader. They're not my boss. This is the playground. We're just all kids on the playground. We've got a set of rules. We're all supposed to abide by those rules. And when we don't, the people who do not hold others accountable, those who are enriching themselves while you're struggling, those people are the problem and have to be eradicated. We have legal process to do that. My fear is that they don't want to leave. And they don't want to be removed from their power and their ivory tower. And so it's going to take more. Let's go to this report real quick here. They've got running in the background here. Let's see what they're saying here.
Talk about, if you would, how intricate is a retaliation for the IDF?
Well, hi, and thank you for having me. As Trey said, this is an unprecedented attack. The scope of the attack against Israeli civilians is something that, despite the fact that Israel has gone through more than 75 years of terror and attacks against our civilians, something like this we have not seen and witnessed and experienced before. And as such, our response will have to be unprecedented in scope and severity against Hamas and against anybody else who thinks that it would be the right time to attack Israel. So unfortunately, as we're speaking, I'm here in Tel Aviv, but in southern Israel, fighting is still ongoing, and we have yet to establish control over all of the communities in southern Israel. We are working with special forces, with massive troops that have basically flooded down towards southern Israel in order to go house to house, door to door in each and every Israeli community to make sure that we find all the terrorists. If we can kill them, we'll kill them. If not, then they'll be taken captive. We'll round them all up. And once we'll be able to reestablish full control of southern Israel, we'll make sure that the border is shut and guarded shut. And then we will commence the second stage, which will be a long and enduring stage of retaliating towards Hamas for their barbaric crimes.
There you go.
Just what I said.
Yep.
That my contact in Israel said that we should expect a massively disproportionate response. Yep. So he said unprecedented response, which means disproportionate. I think you could see. I think you could see. I think you could see a couple tactical nuke strikes.
Yep. There could be a tactical nuke used. It makes sense. Folks, this is what we've been worried about. This is what we've been concerned about. Those of us who have been saying the weakness of America is at some point going to be utilized against us. And this is just one example of what we're talking about on a global scale. It's amazing to me that the men and women in uniform right now have to know that they're going to be sent. We have an obligation to Israel. We don't have one to Ukraine. That's money laundering going on. And here's what's interesting. I talked about this in my live this morning, and Derek, feel free to jump in at any point. But Ukraine has a Nazi problem. Now, you're not hearing about it in the mainstream media today, but from 2014 to 2019, that's all you heard about. ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Reuters, PBS, they were all talking about Ukraine's Nazi problem. If you don't believe me, just go type in Ukraine's Nazi problem, and you'll see all of the rhetoric. You'll see all the stories about, hey, we got to do something about Ukraine.
Watch the documentary Ukraine on Fire that Oliver Stone made. Exactly. That's all you need to know. And then you'll know exactly what's going on over there.
Yep. So think about this. I want to make this real clear. I'm a tactician and a strategist. That's what I do for a living. I work on multi-million-dollar campaigns. I get people in place. I think down the road 3 and 4 years so that we can make a campaign happen so we can hit our goals. That's why I get paid big dollars. So when I look at this and I go, okay, hold on. We left all of that gear in Afghanistan, $82 billion worth of working equipment, the top equipment on the planet. We left it behind. We didn't destroy it, to what Derek said. We left it. Go do another search right now. Military analyst, just a few weeks after that happened, said that they had proof that Hamas was receiving these weapons. Now let's put 2 and 2 together. You've got the Biden administration currently sending hundreds of billions of dollars to a country that has a known Nazi problem. You've got Biden giving Iran, the sworn enemy of Israel, giving Iran $6 billion in the last few weeks. Those are just 2 incidents. Then you've got this attack on Israel by Hamas, the group who got the weapons that were left behind 2 years ago. Nothing happens by accident at this level. The incompetence at this level doesn't happen. Somebody at this level, Derek, jump in at any time and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were when you're in a large organization, right, these decisions are made at the top. They're not made by some mid manager goes, hey, it's too expensive to bring all that shit back. Let's just all leave it here. No, that's a top-down decision. Would I be incorrect in saying that, Derek?
Not even slightly. No, these decisions were made, and they were made for reasons. They didn't leave that equipment in Afghanistan without knowing exactly what was going to happen with it. They knew exactly what was going to go on. They're allowing these things to happen. They need these wars. And keep in mind, right now, the reports that you're not hearing is that Ukraine soldiers are surrendering to Russia en masse right now.
Exactly.
So that is a completely collapsing war. It is a huge black eye to NATO and the United States, and shows the weakness of NATO and the United States.
Yep.
And now, since that's happening and they don't have their perpetual war, they went right from Afghanistan to the Ukraine, and now from Ukraine, now to Israel, Lebanon, and Iran. This is the whole part. This is a strategy. Look, Israel has had this strategy for quite some time called the Greater Israel. They need to be able to take over other Arab nations in order to accomplish their goals. These are their stated goals, right? So, come on, this is nothing. None of this is happening by accident. You don't lose or move billions and billions and billions of dollars of military equipment and funds all over the place without this stuff going down. This isn't an accident. This is 1,000% intentional.
Exactly. Well, Derek, I think that we've beat this horse to death. I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on. I'll get in contact with you if I see anything changing.
If anything comes up, we'll do a space or something.
Yeah.
If there's some breaking news, and we'll do that. And Renegade Media does what it does.
It is. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for joining me, guys.
All right, brother.
You can help. You can help do our mission. What we're doing. we're under attack. We're under attack by our own system, by the people inside our own government. When our founding fathers said, enemies both foreign and domestic, this is what domestic enemies look like. Those that would destroy your nation as you watch and lie to your face and tell you that they're doing everything to benefit you. That's not the case. We need your support. As Derek said, we've renamed what we're doing as Renegade Media. I'll always be CramerSez, but what we're doing is we're moving forward. We're going to form a news company that allows us to broadcast on a daily basis, 24/7 news from around the world that is not run and operated by the mainstream media, that the narrative isn't coming from a top-down mentality. It's grassroots reporting. We're going to need your help. We'll let you know how to do that. In the meantime, if you want to help out the American political prisoners, the J6 detainees, please go over to CramerSez.shop and get yourself a shirt. 100% of the proceeds go directly to the families and to those that are currently detained. We don't keep a dime of it. Every piece of all the money that we have goes directly to them. We've raised right now somewhere in the ballparks of $10,000. We'd like to make it $100,000. Please go do your part. CramerSez.shop. I appreciate it so much. Have a great day and keep your eye on the horizon and have somebody else watching your six. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.